Hey there, welcome. My name's Karina Snow. I'm so glad you're here. So this is a really special class for me. I have been working and studying and thinking about the liver channel as it relates to things like sleep, vision, PMS, emotions, menstrual cycle issues for over a decade. I am what we sometimes call in Chinese medicine a very livery person, meaning I have a lot of these symptoms. Growing up, and especially through my 20s and early 30s, I had a lot of menstrual cycle symptoms, cramping, PMS, and breast tenderness, distension, and I was very emotional throughout the month. Big emotional mood swings, lots of irritability, lots of bouts of depression, things like that. And so once I started studying Chinese medicine over 10, almost 12 years ago, now that's what I initially started working on. I started working on my menstrual cycle, and eventually I started working on that in relation to fertility. In this process, I had 2 miscarriages, so I worked on that. And through this process, I began to understand my body in a very visceral, very internal way. And so that is really how I teach. Chinese medicine can feel very cerebral, and it can feel very like a different language, I think, is how it was put to me when I started studying. And it is a different language. It really is. And anytime you start to learn a different language, especially if it's not one that is close to yours, then you have to shift your mind space over a little bit. So as I talk about the liver channel and as I talk about these things within Chinese medicine, soften your intellectual mind and just allow it to wash over you. And if this is something that you want to continue learning more about, then you will. And there will be lots of repetition and lots of time and space for that. So for today, just listen and look for those key points that kind of hit home to you, those aha moments. And that's what I'm really looking for today as I work with you. So you may want to have a pen and a paper handy. So my name's Karina Snow. I am an Asian bodywork practitioner. I'm a mindset coach and I'm a holistic nutritionist. And in my practice, I combine healing arts with mindset rooted in Chinese medicine. And today, as we talk, I am going to bring in this piece about mindset and the thoughts and your beliefs, because what I have found to be true is that this is one of the key missing pieces in the practitioner relationship with clients, is that we tend to forget there's this huge mind piece, there's this huge belief piece. And so since I have been using these tools with my clients, they get results much, much faster, and those results stay because their beliefs, their foundational beliefs, have actually been able to change instead of me just offering some dietary or herbal or supplement suggestions to them. So that's been quite phenomenal, and that's really exciting. So I will talk a little bit about that today in addition to the Chinese medicine piece. So let's begin. Let's start with an overview, because I'm going to use a few terms and a few words here. And although, this is one class and I'm not going to be able to even scratch the surface of Chinese medicine, but I think it's important just to know a few key concepts. And so I'm going to be talking about something called channels or meridians. I might switch off. I tend to use both words. I'll be talking about channels and meridians. I'm also going to be talking about qi. I will be talking a lot about liver and liver qi. So let's talk about what some of those different terms mean. So in Chinese medicine, we have channels or meridians, and these are these flow through the body. You cannot see them with the naked eye, but a practitioner such as myself or an acupuncturist or a skilled Asian body worker can palpate the channel. So right now I'm just palpating my knee, the inner area of the liver channel, and I can feel it's very easy for me to go to and feel these points. And so we have a channel system within the body, and I like to think about it like a river system, really. And in that way, you can sort of allow this idea of flow either up or down the body. And so within each of these channels, there is a direction, and there's also a time that the qi of the channel is most active and flowing. And so let's just zoom in right to the liver channel. Let's go right there. The liver channel is really interesting. It begins, if this was my foot, it begins right between the big toe and the first toe, and it runs up through those two toes, and then it runs along the inner leg, the inner knee of both legs. It's bilateral, and then it goes up and wraps around the genitalia, and then it ends right below the chest, right here, kind of in line with the nipples. And so we're going to talk about why this is important. This is actually a really important piece when it comes to breast health and when it comes to the sleep piece. So that's the liver channel, and along the channel are all these acupoints. And so when I do body work, I am activating those acupoints. I actually use my thumbs. I don't use needles, and I use my qi, and I am able to direct that qi into the acupoint and elicit a response that's similar to that of a needle. Not as directive, but still effective. So that is the physical liver channel. There are 12 main meridian channels in the body. And I think, the other important thing to really understand with this is I'm going to be saying liver channel a lot, but it's not liver like Western medicine liver. So I think just right away, just like put that off to the side, because right away, like, what are you thinking when I say liver? Right, you're thinking alcohol, drugs, maybe cigarettes or marijuana, cannabis. Right, so even though all those things, they do have an effect within the liver meridian, I'm not talking about detoxing right now, and I'm not talking about the health of your actual liver necessarily. Of course, it absolutely plays a part, but the way that we look at health is so it's so much more encompassing of much more than just the actual organ. So for example, the liver channel, it's really great to just look at the path of where it flows and think about the different parts of our body and our system that are being affected as it flows. So it could be everything from the physical areas that it flows, the big toe, the inner knee, and then the genitalia and the breast area. This intercostal area gets affected a lot, and the diaphragm. So some of the symptoms when we start talking about the liver and about liver qi, and the term we're going to use a lot of times here is liver qi stagnation, which just means that the qi, the moving life force, the energy within our body that moves everything where it needs to go, is not moving in the way that it needs to go, right? It's stuck, it's sluggish, it's like a traffic jam, it's like a dam on the river. I live in the woods, and we have a little creek on our property. Sorry, I can hear my son, my 7-year-old, gets homeschooled by my husband, and I can hear them. So we have a little stream on our property, and what will happen on the stream, especially in the fall, is that the leaves and the sticks that are falling from the trees nearby will sort of naturally like dam it up. And so that's a lot of times what I picture when I picture liver qi stagnation. It's a damming of the flow of the qi on your channels. And when that happens, that's when we start to get these symptoms. So let's talk about some of the symptoms. Classic symptoms of liver qi stagnation are irritability, angstiness, PMS, that's classic. Sighing a lot, if you know someone or if you are someone who sighs a lot, that is classic. Classic liver qi stagnation symptom, because as we sigh, what are we doing? We're trying to release this energy that gets so stuck in here. And because of where the liver channel ends, right here, sighing actually releases that. Other symptoms of liver qi stagnation can be depression, mood swings, tender breaths right before your period, just feeling stuck, feeling like you can't move forward, feeling like you can't vision, it's hard to set goals. And then what I talked about on some of my posts is this wake up, this really interesting specific wake up time that happens right around 3 a.m. That 1 to 3 a.m. is the time of the liver. And so a lot of times if you're waking up right around that time, you know it's correlatory to something going on within your liver channel. Okay? I'm gonna take a sip of water. So, I mentioned something just there and I just want to go over that for a sec. So this time, this is really interesting. So in Chinese medicine, we have a clock. And I actually think that Western medicine might be catching up with us. I remember a number of years ago, I heard something on NPR. It's really fleeting and I haven't heard it since, but it was something like breaking news, like doctors are actually finding that there's correlations in between organs and different times of the day. So that's exactly what we have in Chinese medicine, in Asian medicine. So all of the different organ systems have a 2-hour block. And so the liver channel block is that 1 to 3 a.m. I'm not going to go through all of them, but just know that for each there is a 2-hour block. The next one is actually lung. It's from 3 to 5 in the morning, and the lung is actually where we say the channel flow, the qi flow actually begins. So this ending point on the liver channel, right here, I'm going to point to the area where it ends. This ending point is actually the end, it's the end of a cycle. And actually it's quite challenging for some people for that qi, for that energy within the channel to actually jump to the next channel, to that next point, because it's all the way here. So it has to go through breast tissue, it has to go through diaphragm, it has to go through all our angsty tension that we love to hold right here. And it's got to jump all the way up here. All the other organ channel jumps are just on the fingers, on the toes, or there's one on the side here that's much smaller. And so this is a big jump. This is a lot for the liver channel to do. And so that is why a lot of times we will wake up exactly at that point, at that juncture in between the liver, 3 a.m. ending, that time of the liver qi ending its cycle, and the lung qi beginning its cycle. Because right at that moment, I'm going to repeat this a couple times, right at that moment, the qi needs to jump all the way through here. And if we're stuck in here, if we're angsty, if we're PMSy, if we're irritable, there's no judgment here. This is just how it is. If we haven't moved our body in many days, if we've been eating stuff that doesn't work for us, if we are having trouble with our communication, if our thoughts are haywire, if our hormones feel way out of whack, this is going to feel all stuck and stagnant right in here. And it's going to be really difficult for the qi to jump over here. And so what happens? You wake up. You wake up, bing, eyes open, wide awake. And this is the really fascinating part. Liver is not just physical, right? Nothing's ever just on one plane in Chinese medicine. If there's one thing that I can impart on you, it's the complex nuances of this ethereal, emotional, psychological realm that Chinese medicine touches on. And so for the liver, it's all about vision. And so on a purely physical level, if we get into liver pathology, it also relates to the eyes. So the organ always has a parallel sense organ. And so the parallel sense organ of the liver is the eye. So anything happening with the eyes, eyesight difficulties, dry eyes, floaters in the eyes, uncomfortable red eyes, is oftentimes a liver pathology issue. But let's use that same word vision and think about that internal vision, that vision that happens from here, from the third eye, that vision that happens from here. That vision, if you're a creative person and you know this, if you're an artist, if you're a musician, then you're a writer, you know this early morning time because this is when it happens. And if you wake up at this time, this is when you get your ideas. This is why you always keep a notebook by your bed. Always, always, always. The best ideas come then. You'll be fascinated when you look at it in the morning. So it happens. Our liver chi stuck, we wake up, bing, and then it's this 3 a.m. time and we're up, we're awake. We're like really awake. And we have ideas. So this can be difficult for our sister, right? Because then this is when, insomnia creeps in. Then if you're up and you're having lots of ideas, sometimes then you stay up. And then that's when you get into trouble. Because as we all know, especially if you're someone that has had children or cats, then you know that sleep is the most important thing in the whole world. And if you don't sleep for a long period of time, you get interrupted sleep for a long period of time, you feel like absolute garbage. And it really, really affects your mood and your thoughts. And it's very difficult to move forward and to actually not be depressed when you're not sleeping well. So it's really important, and that's why I talk so much about this. Okay, let me look at my notes for a minute. Okay, so we've talked a little bit about the channel. You kind of know where it goes now. And we've talked about this time at 3 a.m., which is super interesting to me. Where it kind of gets stuck. So let's talk for a minute about what we can do in our bodies to help move our liver chi, because I think that this is probably what you're interested in the most. So I'm going to go for 3 areas. I'm going to talk about foods, I'm going to talk about movement, and I'm going to talk about thoughts. I'm not going to get into herbs and herbal formulas right now. That is much more of a one-to-one practitioner-client conversation. If this is something that you want to work on with me or with your acupuncturist, then I would suggest that. I can offer a couple simple herbal suggestions, but I don't get into broad-based formulations with people in this way. There's many more things that we need to think about, okay? That said, there are some very effective, both Chinese and Western medicine herbs that can be really helpful for moving liver chi stagnation. So if that is something that you're interested in, please let me know. Or if you are working with your practitioner, reach out to them and talk to them. Okay. So let's talk about things that you can do. And this does not have to be like a huge sweeping changes. I like the protocols and the changes that I give folks to be really attainable. And so don't think that you have to change everything about your diet. Okay, so let's just dive in with foods. So foods are one way to help move your liver qi and help you feel better and help you have less of this kind of like stagnation, angsty, PMS-y feeling. They're not my first go-to. Movement is my first go-to, but I want to talk about some foods because I do find them helpful. And I'm going to go for really like hyper-specific foods. So we have 5 different flavors within Chinese medicine. And the flavors that I'm going to talk about as being helpful for moving liver qi are sour. And I also find that pungent and bitter flavors can be helpful. So sour flavors are things like lemon, apple cider vinegar. Those are 2 of like the easiest sours that I like to use. I'm going to keep it really simple again. Bitter things like dark leafy greens that are cooked. Please cook your dark leafy greens. If anyone tells you to put kale in your blender and blend it up into a smoothie, please don't do that. It really is not digestible. So cooked greens have that bitter flavor, like a mustard green, arugula, dandelion, and they're acquired, right? Like these are not usually things that we're like, yay, I just want to eat a plate of dandelion greens. You kind of have to get used to it. My grandfather was an old Italian, like New Jersey Italian, and he would go out in his backyard and harvest dandelion greens and just lightly saute them and put olive oil on them. So they were still quite bitter. And that bitterness is really, really excellent at moving our liver qi. And then pungent, that's some of our spices. So not too hot. I find that a lot of people with these kind of liver issues, like it can't go too spicy. It's not that good for you. If you don't have enough like substance and yin and blood in your body, it kind of goes whoosh and you get dry eyes or you get headaches or your skin starts to get weird. I know for myself, I really can't do too much heat. A little is good. Too much, I actually get angry. So sour. Let me just talk about what I love and what I find to be the most simple kind of effective ways of moving some of this energy. So apple cider vinegar, the raw stuff, it comes in a glass bottle and it has like the mother, you know, the like almost like the SCOBY in it. So I always have apple cider vinegar, and what I do is I just get a glass and I put maybe 2 tablespoons in it with some water. And you can fill the glass with water, or if you like the flavor, just add a little bit of water. And if say it's before your period, or if it's a time that you just feel particularly angsty, or you can actually do this just daily, just drink that down. I love this flavor. I think it is a bit acquired, but what I notice just in my body, and I'm pretty visceral, so I'll just explain this internally of how I feel, is that it's like the relaxation that you get when you take that first sip of wine. And actually wine is interesting. Red wine does actually move your liver qi, as does actually most alcohol. Beer, I would say, does not move your liver qi, but it's only a little, right? Once we get, I find, even to like a glass, it's too much, and at that point it actually starts to depress the liver qi. But if you think about that, like first or second sip of wine, that actually starts to activate and to move your liver qi. So apple cider vinegar is, sorry, I'm just looking at this. Okay. Apple cider vinegar is a really nice way to just kind of kickstart your body and to start moving your liver qi. Okay, and the other thing you can do that's similar is lemon. So what I'll have folks do, and you can do this like every morning, is squeeze 1/4 to 1/2 of a lemon in some warm water. And this is excellent for your liver, like actually your actual liver. It will start to really help and to move like that kind of sluggish liver energy. Okay. I'm gonna add a couple more things. I mentioned greens, and I'll just say again how to do this. So what I do is I just steam the greens. And so again, this can be kale, but it doesn't have to be. It could be kale, chard mustard greens, dandelion greens, arugula, anything I missed? That's most of them. So just steam them and then take them off the heat. And I like to add a little bit of olive oil, salt, and again, some like apple cider vinegar, or if you have like a sherry vinegar or something, it's really nice. So add those 3 things. And this over time will be incredibly helpful for your liver qi, especially if you're eating something richer with this. So if you are eating some meat, what I think of initially is the kind of southern food of like ribs and greens. Like it's an excellent combination. That with they have like the full dish is like some sweet potatoes and cornbread. It's like that is like the best. I love that. It's so well rounded. It's great for the health of your digestion and your spleen. But again, it's like not just sweet. It's not just meat and starch. It's also the greens that have a little bit of that sourness, that have a little bit of that bitterness. That is going to be so helpful in moving your qi. Okay. So those are a few really great foods. Again, I'm just going to keep this really simple. If this is not something that you eat already, just try it. Do an experiment, right? See how you feel. That's what I always start with, right? This doesn't have to be broad sweeping changes. Like just be curious. Okay. So let's talk about thoughts, and then I'm going to talk about movement, and I will show you 2 exercises. So our emotions stagnate our liver if they are not expressed. So unexpressed emotions are things like anger, frustration, irritability. Do you ever notice after you have a big fight, if it resolves and if you've really like expressed and gotten it out there, you feel a lot better? And what do couples do a lot of times after they have a big fight? Exactly, they have sex. Right? Yeah. So why is that? So when we express, when we emote, when we release in that way, we are moving our liver qi. So I'm not saying to have big arguments all the time, but that is one way that we have learned, that we have figured out to express our feelings. Another way is to be able to notice, observe, be curious, and to transmute those feelings as we go. And this is the work that we do in coaching. So what does this mean? This means looking at what you are believing and what you are telling yourself. So if you are frustrated and going on a loop about something over and over and over, it's keeping you up at night, you're thinking about it as you go to sleep, you're thinking about it as you wake up. It's just playing that same story over and over and over again. There's a couple of things you can do, right? You can keep playing the story. You can do this thing where you just like push it aside and like barrel forward. So there's this very like yang approach, this very, I think about it as like a very masculine approach to moving forward in the world, or getting past your shit, or like overcoming your stuff, or getting past your fears. It's basically just like completely ignoring it and pushing it aside and just doing it anyway, just moving. And while movement and forward motion is incredibly helpful, and I advocate doing that a lot, you also have to be able to kindly observe your thoughts and understand what your beliefs are. And if they're not working for you, if they're spinning the stories in your head that are stopping you from being happy or moving forward or having the conversation you need to have or taking care of yourself, if they're stopping you from doing all those things, then they need to go and they need to change. And the way to change them first is to observe them. So we observe the thought. And as humans, we are different than any other animal on the planet. We are able to observe our thought outside of ourselves, knowing that what's up here, what is happening in here, is not actually here, is not actually our internal beliefs. It is separate. And so we are able to observe those thoughts separate than ourselves, write them down, You have to do this. You have to write the thought down. Write it down. What is the thing that keeps cycling through your head? A lot of times it's more than one thing. I know that when I get started on this, sometimes there's a list of 10 different things that the mind is saying, writing them all down. And then looking at it and deciding if that is something that you actually believe. And if it's not, then okay, now it's time to make a change. Now it's time to rewrite that belief, to rewrite that story so that you can move forward. And so step one with this is to notice. A lot of times when you're starting to grow and move forward, try something new, that's when your mind is going to get active. So for example, I'm giving you these couple of simple dietary things like this apple cider vinegar, the lemon, some dark leafy greens. Notice, write it down. Notice what comes up when you think about making a few simple changes. Notice what happens when you start to say, oh, I need to take more time to take care of myself. What are the things that your mind is starting to say to you? What does your mind start to say when you know that you have to have a conversation with a coworker or your boss or your spouse or your child? What does your mind start to say? What does your mind start to say when you think about, or when you try to think about, where you'll be a year from now? For a lot of folks, it's just a blank slate. We can't even put anything there. And that is also the mind creating this. So in that case, you would write down something like, my mind is saying that I don't know where I will be a year from now. So as you do this exercise, as you write down these things that your mind is saying, then you're going to stop, you're going to pause, you're going to ask yourself if you actually believe these things, or if you don't. And if you don't, that's when you get to rewrite them. And so what you do is you rewrite it from your point of view. I believe ... And you, by doing this, are rewriting your story, or rewriting what you believe internally. And then tap into that. How does that feel? How does that feel to you? Okay. So this is foundational mindset work. This is what we do in coaching. If you're interested in this, of course, we can have a conversation about that, but let's move on. Okay. Okay. So we talked about foods. I gave you a few very simple foods. I talked about thoughts, and I think I explained this, but let me just go over this again. So Chinese medicine is funny. So thoughts that are unexpressed will stagnate your qi. Stagnant qi, especially stagnant liver qi, is going to feel angsty, and you're going to feel more emotional and irritable and moody, right? It's like this. Okay? So if you have PMS, you feel like a grouch sometimes, or you feel depressed, or you feel teary. If your liver qi is stuck, you're going to feel like that. And if you are feeling worse and worse, if you're feeling depressed or emotionally up and down, irritable, it is going to stagnate your liver qi. Okay? I think I've said that enough. Okay, so let's talk about movement. And you may have seen, I did a quick video on Instagram about this. I'm going to show you first this really specific Qigong exercise for that 3 a.m. wake up. This is really if you're waking up right at that time, because that really speaks to this block in between the liver and the lung meridian. So what you're going to do is there's these two little points. And the first one is, here's my collarbone here. First one is right in this kind of, there's like a divot there, kind of below the end of the collarbone. Again, both sides, these channels are bilateral. So this is lung 1. Lung 1 is the very beginning point of the lung channel. I wish I had a sticker or something. I'm gonna draw a little dot, but I don't know if you're gonna be able to see it. It's funny, I have like a mole there, it's confusing. I'll draw a little dot here. Okay, so this is lung 1, it's about here. When I do this point, I kind of go in with my thumb. It's actually a little lower. You will feel, sometimes I do it right here, here it is. Sorry, so it's more like, it's like right here. So you're gonna massage this area and you are gonna start by finding this point. And what you're gonna notice and look for is kind of like a tender area. And you can really dig in. If you've had body work from me, you know I kind of dig in. So here's one of the points. And the other point is right here. If you are someone that wears a bra, it's kind of right on that bra line. It's kind of right under the breast tissue and it's in line with the nipple. If you have long boobs, you know, you might need to lift it up a little bit. So this is the point here. It is usually a little tender there. When I do this point, if you've been in to see me for body work, and I've done this point on you, sometimes it's like, and I've got to pry you off the ceiling. It can be really tender. If this is part of your pattern, if liver chi stagnation is part of your pattern, this is going to feel tender. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to make these little bird beaks with your fingers, and we're going to cross your arms like this. And we're not going to cross like this. We're going to go like this. Here, I'll move this a little bit. Okay, so one is going to tap here and one is going to tap here. This is really easy. And we're just going to tap like this for a little while. And you can tap pretty hard. Qigong is, Gong means work, and Qi is like that life force energy. So little Qigong exercises like this, they're like little ways of working the Qi in your body. My teacher had this really funny example. If you're someone like me who is old enough to have had in your car the manual window, I don't even know the name of it. I'm struggling to find the name. The window roller upper. Anyway, she would always say it's like a little Qigong exercise, like up, down. So Qigong exercises are great, and this is really simple. You can do this anytime. You can do this at your desk, and this is really, really, really good for moving the liver chi in between these two channels. And you can also stop. You can kind of like get in there with that. It feels so good. If you have, I've got a lot of neck and shoulder stuff right now. It really actually feels good for back here too. And I noticed there's also like some kind of trigger points that come off of here. And this point here, just get in there, tap, tap, tap. Do this for 30 seconds or a minute and then switch to the other side. Because again, these channels are bilateral. They go on both sides of the body. And then there's also a channel down the middle and down the back of your body. Yeah. So this is really, really good. You can do this any time of day, but you can try it also before bed. And that's usually a good time to do this. You'll remember, and you'll set some intention that, you know, maybe tonight you won't wake up at 3 a.m., right? Okay, just massage. Oh, I feel so good. Okay. All right. So that is, you can kind of do this, make nice. Okay. So that is for that liver lung block. When we do this in session, I will hold these and I will move the chi in between these 2 points as I hold them. Okay, I really like those points. Okay, so the next thing, I'm going to move my chair and I'm going to show you this. The next thing I'm going to show you is for moving liver chi in your whole body. So if you have been listening to this and you're like, oh my gosh, yes, I totally have so much PMS. I feel depressed and angsty and icky and, diaphragmy and all of the things, then you absolutely need to be doing this. chances are, I'm going to make a broad statement here. If this is not true about you, then that's fine. But chances are, if you have a lot of liver qi stagnation in your body, you're probably not moving your body enough. And that's okay, right? That's okay. There's no judgment here. So what I'm going to show you is a really simple body movement. I find it difficult in Vermont to move enough in the winter, and so I like to use these to really get the qi moving. If you have kids, this is actually wonderful with kids. And I will also say, I'm just going to add one more thing. If you have a little trampoline or a big trampoline, that is just as good. So I'm going to show you this just on the ground. I don't have a trampoline, but if you're a trampoline person, bounce. It's one of the best things for you. And I'll actually give you one other fun thing too. Whoops. All right, let me move my chair. So let's see. Okay, that's fine. You can see most of me. So what you're going to do first is you're going to stand up with your feet flat on the floor, and you're going to bend your knees a little bit. You're going to let your belly pooch out, okay? And you're going to drop your chest, okay? Drop your shoulders and just relax, okay? And then you're going to do very little heel raises. So basically my heels, I don't think you're going to be able to see, my heels are just going up and down off the floor, okay? I'm not jumping. If you have a trampoline or if you feel like jumping, you can. It's just really not necessary, okay? This is just fine. And if you're someone that has achy back, or if you're pregnant, or if it's just difficult to move, then you just need to know that you don't have to move that much. So we're going to do this. I'm going to get a little faster, okay? I don't know if it's helpful to see a side view. I don't know. So you're going to do this. You can do it for 3 minutes. If you really want to notice something though, do an experiment. Do this for 10 minutes. And if this video is not cutting the mustard for you, you can go on YouTube and Google qi, Q-I, gong, G-O-N-G, shaking. And there are some nice videos of people in lovely silk Tai Chi outfits doing Qigong shaking for you. But this is excellent. This is my favorite exercise. So now I'm going to make the shaking get a little bigger, okay? I'm going to bring my shoulders into it. My shoulders are dropped. They're down. My belly is relaxed. My chest is relaxed. And I'm taking deep breaths. I'm sighing, letting some of that qi just naturally move through my diaphragm. Okay, let's do a few more. You may need to do this a few times before you kind of get it and feel comfortable with it, but don't overthink it. It's really, really simple. We'll shake for just another minute here. Okay. So, after you do that, after doing that just for a minute, I feel more relaxed. I feel like there's less stuffiness in here. I feel a little calmer. My head is clearer. If you notice that you feel better after movement, even after going for a 20-minute walk, then that indicates that doing some work on the qi of your liver is going to be massively helpful. Okay, so take a look at these things we talked about today, make a couple of shifts. Know that moving your body, moving your thoughts, moving the qi of your liver is going to greatly, greatly impact how you feel and how you interact with the people in your life and your ability to move forward, to dream, to vision, and to be happy. Thank you so much for being here. This was wonderful. My name is Karina Snow. You can look at my website, karinasnow.com. I offer mindset coaching, and I offer wellness and holistic health programs based around pelvic health, the menstrual cycle, hormone balance. I'm going to move into talking more about perimenopause and menopause, and always with the slant of being able to live your fullest, your best life for yourself. Thank you so much for being here. Many blessings to you.